little 15 mil action here. Okay, start that over. All right, so we're at 750 bucks spent so far. We're gonna move from the engine bay to the interior. And we're gonna deal with getting the shifter off. We're gonna get the dashboard taken apart. We're gonna get the seats out, get them cleaned up. Join us, because it's gonna look a lot different at the end of this video. All four are off.
You'd rather had something sewn in or a cover put on or something.
No, it has a G pattern on this side, doesn't it?
So
Oh, no.
Cover on the bottom because it must have been torn.
No. It's early days yet, but I think at 500 bucks.
Yeah. Let's see, let me show you here.
Come on, you. There you go. Time to spray down the seats. A little spray 9, a little pressure washer, a little drying room. That's all it'll take. You had to mail it to us.
Oh, but I thought you didn't have it. What happened there?
Like brand new. Okay, so I want to try and reuse as much as I can because we're doing this on a budget, right? 500 bucks for the Jeep. It's tough to justify spending thousands of dollars on new seats. These things are pretty moldy, pretty torn up, and pretty filthy. So I'm going to start by getting them cleaned and seeing what we're dealing with. Pressure washed them already, so now it's time to get a little scrub underneath and we'll spray 9 and armor all of them and see what we're left with. Well, it's just that's kind of deteriorated, eh? That one's not in that bad a shape actually for something that is 87, 40, 30, 33, 43 years old. 43 years old. 87, 97, 07, 17, no, 30, 37 years old. So it's the year I graduated. So 37 years old, and that's the shape it's in. Not too bad. Okay, now that we've got these seats all cleaned, we've got the bases scuffed and ready to paint. There are two different ways we could do it. We could tape this off and paint them in place, or I think with this one, it may be easier to just, take the base right off. So 13 mil. Okay, so we'll give this 15 minutes to dry. We'll flip it over, do the other side. This is just the flat primer. Come over, spray the other side. Okay, now that we've had this guy sit, it's actually sat for close to a half hour. I want to make sure it's good and dry. So I will get the top coat on, which is just armor coat, interior, exterior, rust paint. Hopefully there's enough in that can. An hour's gone by now, and it should be just a matter of putting this guy back on, then the seat is finished. While we're on the topic of seats, these are the two brackets for the folding back seat. These are in terrible condition, don't know why. So we're gonna have to brush these. I'll use that rust inhibitor or the rust removal gel, that Permatex stuff, because that seemed to work great. And then they'll be ready to be painted as well. So it's still pitch black out there. I gotta hose these things off, but I gotta do it outside. So it's kind of rainy and crappy out, and it seemed like today would be a good day to get the dashboard pulled. It's not a slick pre or arranged organized event where everything is where it needs to be. I have no idea how to take it apart. I'm just gonna kind of try to use some common sense. Look for the first piece of plastic that doesn't have another piece of plastic overlaid over top of it. That's probably the first thing that gets pulled out. Apparently there's a bunch of Phillips screws under here and in here, and then to actually remove the main part of the dash you have to apparently push that windshield forward, which we won't do today, but I'm going to see what I can get accomplished. Anyway, so I'm going to get started. A quick tour of the dashboard. It's divided into three sections. There's your driver's area, and then there's this line, and then there's this sort of center console and a line, and then your glove compartment. So I'm going to sort of go left to right here and try and take these apart. I can see that there's some screws down below, Phillips there, or some Phillips here. So I'm just going to start taking those off. And it's all going in this bucket. It's just a little guy. Didn't realize how short these screws are, so I'm just going to use I'm just going to hand screw them. They're not in very far, so what's the worst that could happen? This is all fairly brittle, so I don't want to exactly bash away at it here. You see, so there's a little pin there. There's a little tab, and then that comes off. Ooh, yeah. 3 across the bottom. Broke a nasty little seal with that one. Lots of spiders inside here already. Different size screw. Nice. These first things are really just cover plates, and once they come off, then we'll be able to get to the actual dash assembly. one of the benefits of recording all of this is that I'll actually have a roadmap to put it all back together too. So that's a side benefit. No. Flashlight time. Okay, so it turns out that the geniuses at American Motors decided to put bolts that you have to get from the back side before you can pull this out. So I have a 11 mil socket on this ridiculous little freebie that my son got from from some plumbing show. So I'm gonna get, there's 2 on the back side of this spot, 2 on the back side of that spot. So I'm gonna get them in underneath. Gotta do this blind. I just hope to hear a good sound. Oh yeah. This is becoming ridiculous. Well, the glove compartment is out now. I'm gonna go back to these guys. Again, a bunch more flatheads, or a bunch more Phillips, pardon me, down here. So we're gonna get these out, and I expect that we're gonna have some connectors on the back side. So, as I've got a terrible memory, I've got some felt pen and some labels so I can label this stuff as it comes off. Okay, Williams, for your own memory, there's a plastic shroud that goes, oh, it's busted all to hell. Looks as though this thing has been taken out / broken in the past. 4 along the bottom, there's 1 on the side, probably 1 on that side too that's broken. Okay. There we go. Wow, high quality. Oh, okay, so it's only 1 multi-pin connector. That's holding that in. And you should be able to just pinch the sides and remove.
Pinch the sides. And remove.
Dash center cluster. Well, nice. Okay. What's next? Yeah. Ooh, she's a bit damp. I wonder if that worked. Next, let's go for the heater. Again, pretty connected, it's all just Phillips. I'm gonna label that guy too. That's the Speedo. Not sure if that's supposed to sound like that, but so we'll label that as the speedometer. Exciting, hey? Okay, this is liable to be a wiring nightmare, but we'll see what we got. Oh, you son of a bitch. Well, we're on to day 2 of Operation Remove the Dashboard. So I've got a one Phillips screw here does not want to come out. Well, it looks like I should be able to just wiggle and get these two, there's two pin boards. Okay, so these fellas, it turns out there's a tab. There's a tab on the edges that you can use to just pry them out. So that's what I've done. There we go. That's out. Fancy, hey? Look at that, 80s technology. Boy, if the Russians could get a hold of that. Woo! Now, our headlights. So some more Phillips. These should come off fairly easily because they are well protected by multiple other layers of dashboard. Just pulls right off, and that's our headlights. So we'll label that. The last one's out now. That's the dimmer. Pull that tab up. Pull that tab up. And slide him out. Come on. There we go. Dimmer's out. That's this side entirely out. And I'm gonna get the window forward so that I can get to the screws in behind the main part of the dash here. Because there's a series of screws across the top apparently, but you can't get to them while this is in place. So a bunch of Torx bolts. I'm gonna have to take some Allen keys up to here, some Torx to take these off. These are pretty gross anyway. And then it should flip forward so that I can access those other screws. Okay, get that windshield forward now. We've got the visors off, such as they were. Windshield, so it should be these three bolts, which are Torx. And then there's going to be two hex up above and the same on the other side. Ooh, lovely. Ooh, I think this is going to be a challenge. Go a little bit more pro. Well, the good news is it looks like I only need to take this one off. These two will stay on here, will stay on the windshield frame when it goes forward, which is good because they are not wanting to come off. Now I will need to get them off eventually so I can get everything cleaned up and painted, but right now, in order to get this thing forward, looks like we won't have to. Oh, nice. That's not going to come so easily, is it? Nope. Okay. When in doubt, go to the firearms. Spray a little gun treatment in there, see what that does. Fortunately, on Fridays, I get to abuse this guy. So these bolts, which before I didn't think were ever coming out, are now out. I'm going to flip this windshield forward here, but in order to do that, the hardtop needs to be detached. Was it 4 bolts down each side, and then there's a little electrical down there which just gets unplugged. We have what's been described as an aftermarket Robertson screw, probably somewhere where it shouldn't be, and we'll see if we can pop this guy up now. Windshield.
Okay, I think we got too much of a lip still at the front, so we may have to loosen those screws off back here a little bit more.
Okay, it's a damp one today, so we're rolling canopies.
Figure that out.
Sort that out when we get to it.
We'll lower it semi-slowly.
It'll be like a grand unveiling.
Right. May need to get some heat on there
Right?
because you don't want to fatigue that metal anymore.
Right.
So what we've got is we've got that little plumbing torch, that little pencil torch.
Yeah. What we notice as we're bending back and forth is the actual hinge isn't moving at all. It's just fatiguing the shit out of this narrow little piece here. So we're gonna try and get some fire on it, heat it up.
It looks to me like it's this middle part that's supposed to pivot on the hinge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And set it on top of the hood or something.
What about, can we get in behind with a, ow!
Oh, fuck.
Can we get in behind and pry a little?
Oh.
You got frost there. Not surprisingly, this matchbook probably blocking the vents. That's why we couldn't get the defrost working.
That's why.
That and the chicken feather.
Probably why the motor wouldn't start either. Not quite unveiled on time, but
Well, so with the windshield down, a few screws across the back here. Oh, we still got one there. And down the side.
I'll blame it on using a right-handed screwdriver with your left hand. That's what happens.
Two. Holy crap, it comes right away. Nice and clean now. Oh dear, oh dear.
Dear, dear.
What have we gotten ourselves into? I'm gonna take this tin plate off as well because there's rust underneath here, which is causing some pressure to come up and probably breaking our window seal, which is causing water to get in behind here. But you can see that rust there. Dirt, filth. Well, that looks like progress to me. So, I'm gonna sand the metal down here, that rust off, sand all that down, prime it, get it all put back together, because I don't want to get too far into the weeds taking shit apart. First things first, I'm gonna wrap a towel around this and some tape so that the brother doesn't smash his head in anymore. And then, going to sand the frame. But we get this all cleaned out so that we can put the window back up, have it back and forth, but at least have it in the up position most of the time. I really don't want too much pressure on this. I just don't want this to be sitting like this forever. All right. Easy tear, hey? Sure. What is it?
Not rust, but it was.
And now it needs?
Something to prevent rust. How about we'll go with primer
Primer.
and paint.
Rust-Oleum primer. Let that dry, and we'll get a coat of some red on it just to kind of make it look a little prettier. In the meantime, we can get cleaning this guy. Might as well glue these little fellas back on while we have a chance. Using my Revel model glue. I'm going to try and reuse this seal here. I'm not sure whether or not the seal kit that I ordered for the doors and the and the lift gate or the tailgate actually include this one. So I want to try and get a little bit more life out of it and relax a little bit. So we're just going to use the simple silicone lubricant. You can see right there, protects rubber moldings and weather strip. All right, so spray it on there good. wipe it on. Well, this is the dashboard parts. They need a good washing. Okay, so the speedo's been cleaned off. There's some rust on these top edges. I'm just going to sand that off with probably like 120 grit and then some 600 grit around the bezel. I'll tape that off and repaint it, and at the same time take a brush just to this powdered, this powder that's, I don't even know what's really happening here, but no point, I've got it this far apart, I might as well clean it up properly. Kind of one of the more important things that you see when you get into the Jeep, so get all this crap off of it. Not that you're going to see this side of it, but after cleaning off the instrument cluster, we'll call it, is that it still had quite a few marks on it. So some of those marks were in this this tin piece that sits on top of it. Some of the marks were in the this lens cap, the lens that goes over top. So what I did was I took it off. I'm gonna blow it out with air. Put that guy back on. Sand it down a little bit more with steel wool. And then hit it with the fine scratch remover. So that's all sanded down now. Throwing the scratch remover on it. And I'm just gonna use a microfiber. Rub that in. Gotta do both sides because both sides were a little bit messed up. Well, I like that a lot better than what I was seeing before, for sure. Well, that went a lot easier. So the tachometer's got some rust built up around the inside here. So we'll scrape that out. And then I'm going to sand the top edge of the bezel. Again, we're going to use the 180 at first, right? And then we'll use a 400 grit. Blast that with some air, clean up the corners a little bit, tape the plastic, and then blast it with a coat of paint, and then they're ready to go back in. Before, after. Spray 9 cleaner, Armor All Protectant. Finishing the dashboard. Okay, so we have our one last piece here. Yeah. Right. Okay, so you put 2 in that groove on the one side, and then take this, slip it right back over so that those bearings pop right through. Same on the other side, slides back and forth. Hold your ashtray in. That's the last piece of our dashboard, which will now go away until we're ready to reinstall it all. Pretty happy with that. Now, all of this can go away into the storage room.